What's up, YouTube? James back here, and today we're gonna go over one of my matches from the North American Regional Finals. This match was actually streamed on the official Pokemon channel. And speaking of streams, make sure if you haven't already, check out my social media, such as my Twitch channel where I do live stream, and my Twitter, Instagram, especially if you enjoy the content. Be sure to leave a like down below if you like seeing these tournament post-game analysis. But yeah, we got Mars here. We're gonna be playing against a Coalossal team. As you see, my team is the Grimmsnarl, Moltres, the Entei, Metagross, Porygon 2, and Rotom-Wash. And Mars is running pretty much a standard Coalossal team. Basically, the same six has been pretty dominant as of recent, with the Dragapult, Togekiss, Urshifu, Water, the Rillaboom, Incineroar, and the Coalossal. Now, if my memory serves, it's Life Orb, Dragapult, Focus Sash, Urshifu, which is pretty standard. The Scope Lens, Togekiss for Protect, Shuckberry, and Incineroar with Taunt. The standard weakness policy Coalossal, but it has Earth Power instead of Solar Beam. And then I think the Rillaboom was Miracle Seed, if I remember right. I think it is Miracle Seed. I don't think it was Assault Vest on this one. So against this kind of combination where Solar Beam is pretty big against the Rotom-Wash matchup, because now I know that the fact is that the Coalossal doesn't have a way to knock out Rotom-Wash Dynamaxed with any attack. Rotom-Wash is a pretty safe lead, and Moltres is just like a really good lead against anything that isn't Coalossal, and they cover each other's weaknesses really well in this matchup. So I decide I'm gonna lead Galarian Moltres plus Rotom-Wash because I felt like it is like a best mid-ground lead. Like, there's not really much that heavily punishes this lead overall. So yeah, I bring Metagross in the back and Entei because of the fact that I think Metagross is really good if I'm able to weaken the Urshifu as well as knock out the Coalossal. Otherwise, Metagross is fantastic, and Entei helps with the Bulldoze against the Urshifu, which is really nice. Helps against the Rillaboom, which is really good. Good against Togekiss as a switch in, and can potentially deal with the Dragapult depending on the situation. And yeah, that's basically what I decide to go for in this matchup. So Coalossal is a really interesting matchup. I only played a few Coalossals in Swiss. I think I only played one or two in Swiss, and I haven't really game planned too much, but I felt like Galarian Moltres is actually really important from my Swiss round that I had against Coalossal. So there is the Urshifu plus Dragapult lead, as my Moltres and Rotom-Wash does lead here. So yeah, Coalossal is a weird matchup against my team because I have screens which heavily reduce the damage output that Coalossal can do, and I have ways to revenge KO it with like Metagross or Rotom-Wash, so it's not exactly like the easiest Pokemon to use against me. So this is a pretty okay lead for me. I get a Airstream into T-Bolt, potentially into Urshifu. I'm pretty much expecting Dragapult to Dynamax, but I don't know which move it's going to go for. I can go for Phantasm. My Rotom-Wash is bulky enough to survive a Max Phantasm from Dynamax Dragapult with Life Orb. The only problem is if they double up, it's Rotom-Wash just does go down, but I think that's completely fine realistically, because then afterward I can just go for, I can get a free switch. So the thing is, my Galarian Moltres is EV to outspeed Dragapult as well after an Airstream, and their Airstream's not really doing too much damage, but my Airstream can potentially get a knockout, and yeah, that would be pretty big. So, and if you don't Airstream with Dragapult, I outspeed with Moltres the following turn, which is pretty big. So Dragapult does Dynamax here, as my Galarian Moltres is going to Dynamax 2 in this matchup, and it basically just comes down to what my opponent decides to do. You can go for, I think it's Max Phantasm in the Rotom-Wash, or you can go for Airstream into the Moltres. That's basically what I'm pretty much assuming is going to be the position here. So do Dynamax my Moltres. I do want to get my Airstreams up, and it's in a fantastic offensive position. We're going to see Max Phantasm come out. It targets the Moltres, so my opponent probably thought that you would go for the close combat into Rotom picking the knockout. I wasn't sure if it was a double up in the Moltres. I didn't think that Max Phantasm in the close combat -1 knocked out the Moltres, but close combat comes down to Rotom, which is completely fine because my Rotom is bulky and it survives it even through the Max Phantasm defense drop. The Urshifu takes its drops, but it's not really going to matter too much because it would have gone down anyway to T-Bolt plus Airstream. I ate a Sitrus Berry, which doesn't really change much because I'm -1 defense. I'll go down to darts anyway, and yeah, basically the only thing I think would change is maybe like a fake out from Rillaboom knockout potentially, but I don't think that's going to be the case. So Airstream, get my speed boost with Moltres, which is pretty big. because I do outspeed the Dragapult now in this position, and T-Bolt is going to be able to knock out the Urshifu. So that's really nice. Urshifu is a really big pain for my Pokemon in the back, so I felt pretty pleased about that. Now, wasn't sure what the last two Pokemon on my opponent's team would be brought out. I was thinking it was going to be Togekiss and Rillaboom. I didn't think it was going to be Coalossal and Baek. Togekiss does reveal itself here, and I thought my opponent had to do something to get back in this game because I felt my opponent was in a really bad position. Like, Follow Me is very obvious here, so my opponent might think Airstream Thunderbolt, knock out the Kiss. My Rotom would outspeed the Dragapult afterward. So I decided to go for Max Darkness in the Dragapult because if my opponent expects me to predict the obvious Follow Me, they'll go for Protect here with Togekiss. And if they protect Togekiss, I get to knock out Dragapult, which is pretty big. But if I don't, it doesn't really change much because what this allows me to do is I get a Max Darkness off in a Kiss if they follow me anyway, and that's exactly what happens. And then T-Bolt will be able to knock out the Kiss, and if they target the Rotom for the knockout, Airstream knocks out the Rotom-Wash, or no, the Airstream knocks out the Togekiss the following turn anyway. So Max Dragon is going to come out into the Moltres and pick up the knockout, which is completely fine. So I expected potentially a knockout in the Moltres this potential turn, and I was like completely fine with this because the Dragapult only has one turn of Dynamax, and I was like pretty sure at this point that I had a position where I could get a good 3v2 situation from a knockout on a Togekiss this turn. So Togekiss does go down here as my opponent's down again, a 3v2 situation. Not exactly great because my opponent does have Dynamax. I have to go Metagross here because I need to be able to protect here, because I gotta make sure that Entei doesn't take any unnecessary damage, which would be really bad, especially a max move. If it's Rillaboom and back Grassy Glide into Rotom and then attacking the Entei would be horrendous. So we see Incineroar and Metagross is gonna come out, and this position, I think I messed up here. I go for a Double Protect. Double Protect is not to play here. Protect on Metagross is 100% to play. Hydro Pump is better in this position than protecting. If I lose Rotom-Wash, that's completely fine. Because I get a free switch to Entei, and I think it's more ideal because that's what I was kind of planning on anyway. With me protecting Rotom, it kind of makes an awkward position the following turn, because if my opponent targets down the Metagross here and take with not Max Phantasm, I take Chip on Metagross, and then Darts comes out, and then Flare Blitz from Incineroar, as I'm not able to pick up a knockout onto any of those Pokemon. I'd be in actually a pretty awkward position, but thankfully my opponent does target the Rotom-Wash there and picks up the knockout, which is completely fine. So yeah, I can go Entei here, and basically this is the position I wanted. This Incineroar Shuca Berry, but it shouldn't really matter too much here because I can go for Bulldoze plus Stomping Tantrum into the Incineroar to pick up a knockout, and the Dragapult basically with no max has to go for Phantom Force if it wants to do any damage to Metagross, which is a 2-turn attack. Which means since none of these Pokemon have Protect on the field, I basically always get a free double target into Incineroar, and the worst case again is the Phantom Force charge up or a Dragon Darts here, which doesn't really change any position. The only thing that's a little bit annoying is since I Bulldoze in this position and take damage with Metagross, I'm not sure how much Phantom Force is actually doing to my Metagross and whether it's a roll or not, but I was pretty confident with the chip damage that Dragapult's been taking from Life Orb, 2 Sacred Fires plus 2 more Life Orb hits, probably knock out Dragapult, especially if I get the burn, it should seal it. So I go for my best odds here as the Phantom Force does come out from the Dragapult, as I do go for the Bulldoze, and the Bulldoze once again. Shuca Berry proc pretty big, which is something really crazy about this Bulldoze strat. Getting rid of Shuca Berry, allowing Metagross to proc a Weakness Policy boost, and then hit it with this very powerful Stomping Tantrum at +2. I get a crit on Incineroar. I don't think it matters because usually Stomping Tantrum just barely misses the knockout on Incineroar, so I feel like with the Bulldoze damage, or at least at +2, I feel like with the Bulldoze damage, this should pretty much always guarantee the knockout. So Incineroar does go down there, as now it's a 2v1 situation, and now I basically just gotta hope that Entei hits its moves, or Metagross survives this Phantom Force and is able to revenge KO with an Iron Head. So Phantom Force is going to come out from the Dragapult. It is able to knock out my Metagross. Very strong attack with the Life Orb. So Metagross goes down, which is completely fine as long as Entei hits its moves. Hopefully gets a burn, because a burn would just seal it up immediately. Single target Sacred Fire, by the way, does more damage than Snarl as well, because I knew that calc. as Dragapult does get burned immediately, which just seals up the game. Or it doesn't seal up the game if I keep missing, but it just makes it a lot easier, assuming I hit my attacks. So Sacred Fire here into Dragapult. And yeah, I think I consider Snarl, but I don't. But Sacred Fire did do more damage to the Dragapult. So yeah, there wasn't really much that could be done. I feel like based on the Sacred Fire damage from before, I'm pretty sure after another turn of Life Orb, I don't think the burn mattered. But again, it could have been based on rolls, because I don't know the exact calc, but I knew it was like pretty high chance that I was able to. So Dragon Darts comes out into Entei, and basically I just got a hit. My opponent gets a crit, and the crit doesn't even bring me down to below 50%. Takes a Life Orb chip, and then Sacred Fire does come out into the Dragapult. Maybe the burn did matter. Maybe I needed one burn out of two, but since it helps with the burn on the first turn, because Darts non-burn into Darts burn would have probably knocked me out. So getting the burn there was pretty lucky, especially with a chance of me missing Sacred Fire. So yeah, end up picking up the game. I think I played pretty well. I think I took pretty much no super big risks. I think I put myself in a position where I was like, I wasn't guaranteed to lose too much out of a turn. I think the only position that I put myself that was awkward potentially was the Rotom-Wash protecting with Metagross. I think I should have just attacked from Rotom, because again, I think position wise with if the Dragapult goes for damage in the Metagross, which I don't think my opponent's gonna max Phantasm in the Metagross because it does activate Policy, but on the rare chance it could have been a little bit ugly. Especially my opponent expected double protect, went for like Airstream or a Max Dragon in Metagross just to get a little bit of chip. And Airstream actually could have been scary in a Metagross because Airstream Flareless, but it depends on the Incineroar set, because if it's Mint Speed Incineroar, then you're not outspeeding my Metagross after a +1 anyway. So we're going into game 2, and pretty much I was thinking that I think Moltres Rotom-Wash again, safest lead. I don't think there's really like any big changes I would do here. Previously against Coalossal teams, I had like a lot of mix-up leads. Usually Grimmsnarl getting up screens plus Metagross was a pretty nice lead against Coalossal mode, because I'd be able to get screens up against Coalossal and Revenge KO if they do decide to Dynamax. And against Dragapult, like it wasn't doing too much damage under Reflect. So yeah, but I decided that Moltres Rotom-Wash is still the better lead. It's more consistent. It just covers so much in this matchup. Like Moltres does really well against everything except the Togekiss and maybe the Incineroar, which as well as Coalossal, but Rotom-Wash handles pretty much all of those Pokemon. And Rotom-Wash's Pokemon weaknesses, just Moltres just helps out against the Dragapult and Rillaboom. So it's a really safe lead. And my back Pokemon, I felt like the plan was pretty solid. I considered bringing Kiss potentially, because, or not Togekiss, the Porygon 2 potentially, because I felt like Porygon 2 was really nice to deal with Dragapult, because I do have Shadow Ball, so it allowed me to do more damage to the, or have a more reliable way of handling the Dragapult. But I felt like it depends on what my opponent does there, and since I think that Coalossal could lead this game too, and Rocks could go up, I feel like the extra damage from Vocalith is just gonna basically hurt me too much to where Porygon 2 might not be as useful. So that was basically the plan. I felt Speed Control was also really important, as well as a Revenge Killer in Entei, because Entei can do a lot of stuff with extreme speed in the end game against this team. So we do see the Coalossal plus the Urshifu lead against my Rotom-Wash and Galarian Moltres. Now this is a pretty big thing because my opponent is on match point right here, so this is awkward because Coalossal of course could get a knockout this turn, and we could be exchanging Maxmons, or Coalossal could be baiting my Dynamax move. I thought my the Coalossal was baiting my Dynamax from Rotom, like trying to go Rillaboom. So I decide I'm gonna go for a Max Airstream in Urshifu. I really was thinking about doubling up the Urshifu, thinking Coalossal would definitely switch here, but I decide I'm gonna go for a Hydro Pump just in case. I think it's safer at the end of the day. So yeah, I really didn't expect Coalossal to attack here either, but I was like, just in case, I think it's the better play. I did think it was a better play. I don't think you're gonna, and I also went for Hydro Pump here because yes, +2 Vocal does knock out Rotom-Wash in this position, But I felt like if you were going to max Coalossal on the really rare chance you do, you're not going to target my Rotom. You're going to target down my my Moltres and probably rely on Rillaboom to handle Rotom-Wash. Because if I Dynamax Rotom-Wash, you'd be in a really bad situation. So we do see that my opponent does decide to Dynamax the Coalossal here. I really thought my opponent was going to switch out Coalossal, but Coalossal does Dynamax here. And this is really bad, as I said before. Coalossal, if it goes for a knockout into my Moltres, I mean, with the exchange Dynamax Pokemon, rocks on the field are really annoying. But my opponent does max guard here. So I was right on my opponent not attacking in that position. Goes for close combat into Moltres or into Rotom-Wash, which is completely fine, as the damage doesn't really matter too much, as it doesn't change anything. So Rotom will be able to eat the Sitrus Berry, heal back. I am going to go for an Airstream into the Urshifu, which means my Rotom-Wash is now faster than the Urshifu guaranteed, which is nice. So yeah, so this is a pretty okay position, but it's not super amazing because Coalossal basically gets a KO here the following turn. This is definitely Aqua Jet and a Vocalift coming out here. I know that for a fact because you're not wasting your max turn not getting into KO, or at least a Rocks Up. So the question is when my opponent decides to target. So because I could potentially be in a really bad situation the upcoming turns, but I felt like, okay, Aqua Jet does a lot from Urshifu and the Coalossal. It does, I know this calc, it does like 33% minimum. So I felt like, okay, I'm gonna go for the max darkness in the Coalossal, and I'm just gonna go for Hydro Pump because you're forced to attack with Coalossal this upcoming turn. I'm hoping max darkness plus Aqua Jet plus maybe extreme speed from Entei can finish you off, and that's basically what I'm trying to go for. So Aqua Jet is gonna come out from Coalossal. I basically have to hit Hydro Pump if my opponent targets down the Moltres. So that is a pretty big one. So Aqua Jet gonna come out, weakness policy set up on Coalossal Steam Engine, and the question is, where are you going with the Vocalift? The Vocalift is gonna come out and target down my Rotom. So Rotom does go down, which is completely fine because Moltres is still really important in this matchup. Basically what I assumed is from the lead, I expected Rillaboom and Dragapult in the back because I felt like Kiss plus Coalossal doesn't really help out in this situation at all. And I felt like you need Rillaboom for Rotom-Wash, and I feel like you need Dragapult because it was a good Pokemon in the back. The Max Darkness doesn't do as much damage as I was really hoping for against the Coalossal. So it's still a pretty ugly spot, but basically now I got to go Entei here. And I planned this out basically because I assumed the two Pokemon in the back from turn one. So here I'm like, okay, Dragapult's in a good position to sweep me if you go for if we go with the Rocks Up. So I felt like, okay, you're probably gonna target Moltres here because I feel like Moltres is the big threat at the end of the day. So I was like, I gotta protect Moltres here. If they make the read and get the Entei, we go to game 3 situation, so it's not like the end of the world for me. So I felt like I had room to make this play, and I felt like Moltres again was like a big pain for my opponent to handle, especially since this is the last turn of Dynamax for Coalossal. Coalossal can only go for 2 options, Earth Power and Heat Wave, and none of those at +2 should be able to knock out my Moltres in this position. I don't know, maybe if Aqua Jet it probably can, but yeah. Urshifu is going to swap out, so my opponent goes into Dragapult, probably expect extreme speed into the Urshifu there, as Moltres is going to max guard here, as the Vocalift does come out into the Moltres. So did get the call right, and I am able to get a Bulldoze off, which is absolutely huge into the Coalossal. Now it doesn't pick up the knockouts, which I was a little bit surprised about, but it's fine because with Inner Focus on my Entei, if my opponent has Fake Out in the back, it doesn't really matter. If my opponent has Follow Me, it doesn't matter because Extreme Speed is going to bypass it anyway. So I pretty much always direct an Extreme Speed kill on the Coalossal or Extreme Speed knockout. And my Moltres got a +1 Airstream from turn 1, so I'm always faster than Dragapult, and Fiery Wrath is always a KO with the Life Orb. So yeah, Urshifu is down to 1 Focus Sash. I'm assuming it's Rillaboom in the back. So yeah, my opponents are really not in a good spot. This is a phenomenal position for me, and yeah, now I can just go on attacks here. I think there is a way for my opponent to win, which I'll say at the end of the game. But yeah, basically I'm like, I just go for attacks here. There's really no reason to. There's no reason for me to air slash the Dragapult. Just go for the max or the Fire Wrap because it KOs Dragapult, it KOs Urshifu, and Rillaboom takes a lot of damage anyway at the end of the day. Also, it's going to protect here. which is completely fine. Extreme speed into the Colossal's protect, but the Fire Wrap is going to come out and knock out this Dragon Bolt, and that was probably the biggest threat to the Pokemon I had in the back, because again, I'm assuming Rillaboom plus Urshifu is in Bulldoze range or extreme speed range, and my Entei is going to outspeed that. And my Metagross is looking really good in this end game as long as I'm able to get rid of this Coalossal, because again, the 2 pieces in this game that really threaten it, or the 3 pieces, are severely weakened or knocked out. Dragapult's knocked out, the Coalossal is really low, and the potentially knocked out. It's always threatened by the extreme speed range, and then the Urshifu is really low. So Rillaboom does come out as I expected. It was Rillaboom last Pokemon because Rotom-Wash was pretty annoying for the Coalossal mode. So pretty safe play. Just air slash the Rillaboom and go for the extreme spin Coalossal. I have no reason not to. The only thing I could get screwed by is like Grassy Glide crit into a Moltres. My opponent goes for Fake Out instead, gets a crit anyway, but Moltres survives, which is a pretty big turn. And Extreme Speed is able to knock out the Coalossal. So that's amazing for me because the upcoming turns I can just go for like a Bulldoze with my Entei and then go for a Iron Head into the Rillaboom if my opponent even gets the double protect, which is fine. So all this rocks damage adding up. The Grassy Terrain gonna heal, and it doesn't really matter. Even if these Pokemon have Aqua Jet plus Grassy Glide, I have Extreme Speed, which bypasses all of this and would knock out the Urshifu. And yeah, it's a pretty safe play here just to go for an Air Slash into Rillaboom, Extreme Speed into Urshifu, because what's the worst case is Urshifu protects, Rillaboom gets a knock on the Moltres with Grassy Glide, but I just get Metagross in for free, and Rillaboom can't even knock out my Entei with a Grassy Glide in this position. So yeah, there really isn't too much. I think Rocks also expired, if I'm not mistaken, the last turn. I believe so. So I think my Moltres actually was like safe from getting knocked out from Rocks here. I don't actually remember. We'll find out at the end of the turn, but I actually think if I remember right, the Rocks were over, but I could be wrong. The Tech is going to come out from the Urshifu, which is completely fine, as Extreme Speed is going to go into the Protect. And my opponent did not go for the Grassy Glide, so Air Slash is going to come out. I think my opponent was going for Wood Hammer into the Entei, but Air Slash is just able to knock out the Rillaboom even without a Berserk boost, which is kind of... Oh wait, did I get a Berserk boost? I actually don't remember if I got the Berserk boost because of the Rocks and the Fake Out. I actually don't remember, but I was able to knock out the Rillaboom at the end of the day. I don't think it really mattered too much because I think Metagross was just in a fine position to win. And yeah, the Rocks damage, yeah, as I remember, Rocks damage didn't happen. So yeah, Moltres was pretty safe from taking Rocks. So yeah, this is a guaranteed win here. E-Speed pretty much outspeeds Urshifu, picks a knockout. Urshifu can't pick up a double knockout. And yeah, that is going to be a game win against Coalossal team. So yeah, I felt like I played that pretty well for most of the part. I think again, my turn 1 could have been better. I really didn't expect the Coalossal to attack turn 1. Yeah, I think my opponent, if my opponent wanted a chance to win, it was like you had to do like a really like big maneuvering. You had to switch out Dragapult, go into Rillaboom, and then you would have to knock out the Moltres with Rillaboom, and then Dragapult has to clean up the end game. I think you need a lot of things to go right, but I think that would have been like the only chance my opponent had. But like after Fire Wrath was able to knock out the Dragapult, thankfully I was able to seal up the game. So yeah, that is going to be it. I did move on to losers round 4 after that, because that was losers round 3, and basically losers round 4 was the only match standing in my way of qualifying for the global finals. But I hope everyone enjoyed and got some insight on like why I decided to make the plays that I did. I think I could have capitalized a little bit more. Again, I think the big turns that I messed up were the turn 1 to game 2, which wasn't that big of a mess up, because I felt like it was a decent mid ground at the end of the day. Because again, I don't think you're going to go for the +2 Vocal Lift into Rotom-Wash, because if I Dynamax with Rotom, you're in a really bad situation. And the Protect on Rotom though in game 1 was pretty bad. But otherwise, yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like down below. It really does help out. I'll be uploading the 2 more matches from the global finals. I'll be uploading my final match, obviously, but I'll be also uploading the round before that. It's just late at night today, so I didn't want to like commentate a really big match that I had because it's pretty long. But yeah, look forward to those, and then afterwards here's 10 stuff coming out coming up, and then global final matches coming up. So yeah, thank you all for tuning in. If you did enjoy it, leave a like down below. If you want to try my team, Rent the code down below. But yeah, thank y'all for tuning. Have a great day, people. Till we battle again. I'll see y'all later.